Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the studio. I am Eric C. Jackson. I'm going to be doing something a little different today. I'm not going to be on camera, but I'm going to go through what I'm working on right now, what I've been working on for the past few weeks. All right, so what I'm going to do is bring up Adobe Bridge. And this is the water series back in 2019. So I want to go over a few things because I'm working on the Photoshop files, the raw files, and basically just making sure that the signature on each one of these prints is the opacity is really where I want it. Right now, let me switch to the film strip. It looks to me like the signature is really stamped on here. So all I'm doing is lowering the opacity pretty much. The line width, which I talked about in the last episode, it's already pretty much where I want it. And so now I'm just looking at adjusting the opacity because it's kind of floating here. And I want it to blend in a little bit more with the photograph. But this is a pretty big series. This is like 17 images here. Now, I can't work on this through Adobe Bridge through my iPad Pro because the iPad Pro does not support Adobe Bridge where I manage all of my photography. So if you go all the way up here to the left towards the top, these are all of my folders from over the years. I mean, I've been taking photographs since 2008, so that's where it starts. And then there's folders within everything within these. So it's 2009. There's a bunch of folders in there. So for sure, just years and years worth of photography. But anyway, so when I have a print that I want to stick with or sell, I should say, I move it to my signature prints folder. And so, like I said, today I'm working on water 2019. Basically, as far as the website goes, I think I can pull this over. This is the back end of the website. So you guys usually won't see, well, you definitely won't see this when you come to the website, but this is everything on the back end where I have the print info. I add in the description, the keywords, everything here. And then you guys end up seeing all of this information. These are all of my print list. You see this information on the website, but it doesn't look like this, of course. So yeah, this is what you guys will see when you come to the site. So again, all I'm doing is looking at the signature here and looking at some of these I might not be able to lower the opacity because I'll lose, like you might not be able to see it at all. But some of these, like this one, I feel like that can drop, the opacity can drop a little bit more. That one I'm not sure because the background, the texture on it is a lot, so that might have to stay at 100%. But I'm going to go through each of these. This one actually looks pretty good, actually. I don't think I can do anything with that one. But I'm going to go back over them all and make sure that the opacity of the signature is where I want it. Because right now everything's at 100%. This is too much. This signature is too much. So that's the one that really stuck out to me when I was looking through these earlier. Like ones like this, I can barely see the signature now, so that really wouldn't change. This one's actually pretty good. I don't think that has to move. This one is a little high. But yes, I've been going back over all of them. This one's a little bit bright. And again, if it's too bright, I'm just going to lower the opacity a little bit. The one that came out really good over the weekend that I finished, I believe it's in Under Nature. This one I adjusted the opacity. So yeah, the signature more so blends in with the photograph. So that's the look that I'm going for with most of these. So I'm almost finished with this. I'll be glad when I'm done with it. But yeah, so I would just come in here and go to replace, and just replace the image if I change it. All right, so back to bridge. What I would normally do with these is, because I'm changing the signature, all the colors are off now. But you have your labels, so you go to your navigational bar up at the top. Here's all your labels. You have shortcut keys to all the colors here. So Command or Control 6, 7, 8, 9. Purple, unfortunately, doesn't have a command key or a shortcut key for it. So you would have to just come here and change the color tag to purple. But normally, everything that's a Photoshop file is purple. And then if it's a print file, I go Command 8, change it to green. And then if it's a file that I'm just using to post on social media, like a really small file, then I would go Command 7 and change it to yellow. If it's like the original file size, the 12 by 18, without expanding the file, then I would go red for that one. But yeah, this one's green. For the raw file, I have the color blue, which is, I believe is Command 9, Command or Control 9 for the raw file. So you see the little icon up here in the corner of the thumbnail. That's to let you know that you've made some adjustments to the raw file. So hopefully the raw file matches the Photoshop file, which obviously is going to match the print file. So hopefully all these three match, the three of these match. But if I make changes, because I start in Camera Raw with this. So opening Camera Raw. And this is where I start. Let me see if I can drag this over. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay. So where do I want to start first? Anything where the little eye, like the eyeball icon over here, is darkened, you've made changes on that particular adjustment. So there's all my changes there. If the eye icon is not darkened and you didn't make any changes on that particular adjustment. And yes, they've made even more changes to the user interface, so I'm still getting used to that. They've also added in the artificial intelligence feature in terms of noise reduction, which I don't use. I like to use the manual noise reduction instead of the AI. So I would, like, especially if you're just beginning, like, I wouldn't use anything with AI because it's better for you to really understand what all the adjustments do instead of just clicking one button and having the artificial intelligence do everything for you as far as taking away the noise, the color aberration, that type of thing. So, yeah. Yeah. I would definitely say, like, just get to know all the adjustments. And what they do manually. The optics, I've used that. That's the chromatic aberration. And then this is profile corrections, that type of thing. But really, for expanding the photo, because your default size, like for me, I'm using the Canon 5D Mark II. So for the 5D Mark II, your original file size, as far as dimensions, print size, is a little bit over a 12 by 18 inch. So it's 18 inch wide, 12 inches high. And then the resolution, of course, is 300 dpi, 300 pixels per inch. I do change the depth to 16 bits per channel instead of 8. And color space, of course, I'm still using Adobe RGB 1998. But if you want to enlarge the raw file, then I would just select on the image sizing, resize. So the width, I have it on 60 inches. The height, I maxed it out at 60 inches. So really it's going to become a 60 by 40 instead of, if you don't enlarge it, it's going to be an 18 by 12. I do believe you can go up to 90 on here as far as the width. Yeah, I can go up to a 90 by 60, but for me that's too big. I don't want to stretch it that far. So the 60 by 40 is fine for me. And then you also want to make sure you have on the Photoshop option, open in Photoshop as a smart object. You definitely want to have that selected as well, especially if you don't want to resize it in Camera Raw, you want to resize it in Photoshop. Then I would definitely select this, opening it as a smart object. Because if you open it up as a flat rasterized file and then you stretch it or you enlarge the file, it's for sure it's going to get pixelated. You're going to get more pixelation in your file. So I like to resize it in Camera Raw with the raw file before bringing it over into Photoshop. But yeah, all of my changes have been made already, so I'll go ahead and open this. And this is not my main screen that you guys are seeing. That's why I have to drag. I have to drag the windows over here. Because they pop up on my main monitor. Okay. So what I did is I expanded the file to 12 by 18 to, and you'll see it down here in the corner on the bottom left, 60 inch by 40 inch, 300 ppi or points per inch. So this is the print file, the correct resolution. And let's see, I want to go here. I'm going to open up the Photoshop file. Okay, so this is the Photoshop file. Now the Photoshop file, I don't have it as a 60 by 40. It's only the 18 by 12, right? Because the Photoshop file is going to have, it saves at a really large file, as a really large file size. So you don't want the dimensions of the print to be too big with your Photoshop file. So I keep it at the original 18 by 12. And then I decided to take the raw file, open it up as a 60 by 40. I'm not going to save a file this big as a Photoshop file. And most of the time, if you do try to save it as a Photoshop file, it'll tell you that the file is going to be over 2 gigabytes. It's going to be too large. And so it'll change the file format to, I think it's a PSB, they're calling it. But yeah, I don't want my files to be that big, the Photoshop files to be that big. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm back on the original Photoshop file. This is my signature. So what I'm also changing on here on the file, besides the signature opacity, is when I was doing this before, I created the enlargement in Photoshop instead of Camera Raw. And I think doing my comparisons between the two, if you enlarge the file in Photoshop, it's fine, but I think that the enlargements from Camera Raw are better. There's less grain, there's less color aberration. So I'm going to go back through the water series, enlarge all the files in Camera Raw, and then I'm going to drag my signature over to the enlarged raw file. And then that'll be how I save the print file. In the prints, I don't save them as TIFFs. I do save them as JPEGs because the website that I'm uploading them to, I think the file limit is like 120 megabytes, something like that. If the file size is over 120 megabytes, the server will not accept it. I think that's my cap on here. So I'm definitely gonna use JPEG, because if you save it as a TIFF, the file size is definitely going to be too big. So here's my signature layer over here. I can turn the signature on and off because it's on a separate layer. And yes, please do not write your signature directly on the photograph file. So down here in the bottom right, the bottom file is the print file, which I can turn on and off. And then the signature file is above that. And then I had another signature copy because I was thinking that I wanted this to be brighter, but I went the opposite direction. I'm gonna go not as dark or not as bright. So that can go away. Now, I'm going to have to enlarge this Photoshop file temporarily, because if I drag the signature over here to this 60 by 40, the signature is going to be really baby small. So I want to keep the proportion the same, which means that I'm going to have to go to image size, and And the dialog box went over there. Hold on. There we go. Right. So for me, I try not to use the navigation bar. Like, I don't really go up here, click image, and then image size. See the shortcut keys over here? Those are all of your shortcuts. So basically, this is Option Command I. And if you just go Option Command I, the image dialog box will pop up. Here we go. And it's just a lot faster than dragging my mouse pointer all the way up there. So yeah, there's if you want to use Photoshop to enlarge the print, just make sure that you change your resample option to preserve details enlargement, and also make sure that you brought the file in as a smart object, because you're basically not stretching, you're trying not to stretch the file. And then you can go inches, and there's the 18.7 width, 12.4 height. So you just change that to, I'm going to change it to 60 by 40 inches. Right, so again, you're working with a smart object. You got preserved details enlargement. Resolution's 300. I got the reduced noise kicked all the way up. And then you just go OK or click enter. And it's gonna work its magic. So now it's really big. So now this is a 60 by 40, just like the raw file is, but this is the Photoshop file I'm using. This will be a perfect opportunity as well to make sure that there's no spots or anything on the print that's not supposed to be there. But yeah, the only thing that I'm doing is I'm dragging the signature over to the raw file that's already at 60 by 40. So in order to get this to fall, I'm going to go Control-0. There we go, zoom out. In order to get this signature to drop in the exact same spot, I'm going to grab the layer and I'm going to drag it over to the raw file. And before I release it, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. So hold Shift and then release it. And it'll drop in the exact same spot. Now, that's only going to work if the photograph is the same dimensions, right? That's why I had to enlarge the Photoshop file to 60 by 40 to match what the raw file is. And once that's done, it's dropped in the same spot. I'm going to go ahead and kick the image size back down to 18 by 12. Let's see, go Command-0 to center it. And yeah, that's all I needed to do. And I'm just going to save the Photoshop file again because I did get rid of one of the layers. Replace. There we go. Okay, and then I go Control-W to close. Oh, sorry. See this the blue line down here at the bottom? It's only 99%. So if you try to close it while it's still saving, that's what it's going to show you. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. All right, so we are on the raw file, and I'm not saving the raw file as a Photoshop file. I'm just going to save it as a JPEG. Once I figure out what my opacity is going to be, so I'm on this signature layer. On the signature layer, I'm on opacity, and I really start like at 50% to see what it does. Yeah, it's really too light. All right, 60. 70%. 80% is definitely too light. 50. 55, no. 60 maybe. 65, close. 70 is a little bit high. Either, okay, yeah. 70 would be the max. What about 65? So let's go 70 for right now. This is where it was at 100% opacity. This is 70%. Let me try 65. Make the image smaller because I want to know when I start losing sight of it. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. Even at 70% is too light. All right. So I might not be able to change these after all. Yeah, I might not be able to because the background is so light. Well, the background is not light. It's got a lot of texture and it's very saturated. And in my signature, I made the lines a lot thinner. So yeah, that's at 100% right there. Let me go to 90. That might be about as much as I can do. Yeah, it just doesn't justify the switch. Just going 10% down. Yeah, so I think this one's going to stay the way that it is at 100%. All right. So the only one I might change is the water number 10. Because that one sticks out. That one, the texture in the back of the signature is completely flat. So it's just standing out too much. All right. Now, in terms of your line thickness on here, you see how it's thicker, then it gets thinner. I can't really have that much of a nuanced approach or line thickness when I'm signing my name with the Apple Pencil on the iPad Pro. So I went ahead and I I fixed it. I don't know if I can reverse do this or not. To show you guys how I did this. Let me duplicate the layer and see if I can start from scratch. Okay, so this is where it was, the signature. And I felt like, see how the line is basically the same thickness everywhere? It seemed to, I just wanted it to have more finesse, right? So that's where I started. So then you can adjust your line thickness like this. Right, so here's the copy. There's no mask on it. So what you do is also remember to have your signature as well as a smart object. If it's not already, you would right click that layer. And there it is, convert to smart object. Now don't right click the thumbnail. If you right click the little thumbnail here, you're gonna come up with a different menu. So you would go next to the title or whatever you name that layer and you right click it and it'll be there in the menu. You can do the same thing to the photograph as well if you forget to turn it into a smart object before you bring it into Photoshop. You can switch the photograph as well. But for the thickness, you would go Command, click on the thumbnail of the signature to select it. So you see all those moving ants. So yeah, there's the thumbnail. You just hold down Command or Control if you're on Windows. And you click the thumbnail and then you'll get those little ants. That's because you selected your signature. And there are no shortcut keys for this. So you have to come up to the navigational bar up here at the top and you click select. You come down to modify. And then there's different options that you have. You can feather, smooth, expand, but we want to contract, or I want to contract this. So you click on contract. And of course my box came up on the wrong screen. Hold on. So once you click contract selection, yes. Now, how many pixels do you want to do this? I would just say 1, because this isn't really very thick. This is maybe 2 pixels thick, maybe 3 if I'm pushing it. But yeah, so just say that this is 2 pixels. The signature is 2 pixels thick. I want to thin it out, right? So I would say contract it or subtract 1 pixel from there. So you would just click OK. Now, you're not going to see a difference until, again, you're on your signature layer and you come to your layer mask and you just click on that to add the layer mask. And that's really what thins it out. So you see contract. So that's what it was before. And that's where it is when you take 1 pixel away. Now, if you still think, okay, that's too thick, then see the history tab that I'm on now. You can go back to load selection and then just try it again. Select, modify, contract. And this time you would say, okay, 1 pixel wasn't enough, so just put in 2. Now, if you put in, if you select 2 and there's not 2 pixels of information there, it's going to tell you that you can't make this any smaller or contract it anymore. But if you have enough information to contract 2 pixels, then it'll be fine. So you just say 2 pixels, okay. And then you go back, you add the layer mask onto your selection. And there you go. So this is before, this is after. And that's a lot better. Because now you have the thickness here, right? And then it gets really thin, and then it kind of gets a little thicker. So now it looks more natural as far as your line thickness. It's just not, the same all over. So that's the part that I like. Yeah, so that looks like that's what I ended up with. So again, that's part of the process that I have to go through with every single photograph that I'm adding to the website. And right now I should be around almost at 200, I believe. I have a lot of photographs in here. I really do. I have a bunch. So there we go. Let me go back to square one. Now, you guys saw the purple lines that popped up. Those are your extras, and sometimes you'll have these little blue highlights and whatnot. That can get annoying to see. So it's under, you go back to the navigational bar as view, and then it's called extras, and there's a shortcut key here. It's Command or Control H, and then it'll turn off. And I know they're trying to be helpful with all these guides, but it's sometimes you just want to move them out of the way. So you can turn them on and off with Command H, Command Control H. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Do not save because I didn't make any changes. And yeah, so I think I can get rid of this. That one's done. These are the other images I'm working on, photographs. And right now these are on the cloud. So when I open up Photoshop on my iPad Pro, these files will be here. And then once they are done over there, then I can access them here from my desktop. Then I save them to my desktop or save them to my external hard drive. And then I take them off the cloud because I don't like a lot of my files sitting on the cloud. But for sure, that's pretty much what I'm doing is just making sure that, let's see, these files are done the right way. Purple. Oh, you know what? To make this faster, you can, over here on the left, file type. These are all the camera raw images. These are all of your JPEGs. So you can toggle these on and off. These are all of the Photoshop files. So if you want to label them, correctly. Because for me, it's like I recognize color more than I'm actually reading the file names. So, yeah. Let's see if it's moving the way I want it to. There we go. It's changing them very slowly. So all of them are purple. So yeah, from 2008 to 2023, all of the colors are the same. Purple is always going to be the Photoshop file. Green is always going to be the print file. Blue is always going to be the raw file. Yellow is always going to be the social media file, the small file. So for years, like I've just kept the colors the same that I use. Let's see if this is... Yeah, the images that you don't see a thumbnail of the photo, that means it's a really large file. So it's a really large file. So I'm gonna have to go back in there and see if I saved the dimensions too big, too large. Because when the files get like, this is 1.27 gigabytes, like they get that big, it's just harder for me to manage them. Whether it's just adding labels, working with them in Photoshop, that type of thing. And then sometimes I go back and forth between Photoshop and Camera Raw, and then sometimes you want to add smart filters. So if you're working on a really large file, it's like, oh my goodness. It slows everything down. And let's see, JPEG. Oh, wait a minute. This is a yellow. There we go. These are signatures. Okay, so these are all green. There we go. And this is the only small file I have. So yeah, anything that you save on or post to social media, as far as the dots per inch or the PPI, points per inch, I would say 72. At most, I would say 150, but you definitely don't want to put a 300 dots per inch file online because people can just right click it and grab it. So you would always use something that wouldn't have good resolution if it's printed out. So yeah, just use something small. And then all of my Camera Raw files should be blue, which they are. Okay. So there we go. And it's the same thing with the colors. If you want to go all green, or you want to put blue in there, you can switch between the colors. Yellow. So yeah, it really helps me keep everything organized, which is why it's such a bummer that I can't use Adobe Bridge on iPad. Just the operating system on iPad doesn't work with this software. What was the one that was really, really, really bothering me? That one, which is number 4 and number 10 for sure. Yeah, that just looks... And see, I don't see the thumbnail. This is it shouldn't be 1.16 gigabytes. Let me see what I did. I'm guessing I enlarged it to a 40 by 60. Oh, see, this is a 40 by 40, no wonder. Yeah. So I enlarged it, and this is not the regular size. So what I'm going to do is... I'm gonna shrink this file down to the normal size. I should be able to do that. Coming from the raw file though. Okay, so here's the blue, the raw file. There's a little icon up there that's letting you know this image is cropped. So I right click, open in camera raw. Now, this is probably... This is probably why that Photoshop file is so big, because in camera raw, if you blow this up to a 60 by 60, even after you crop it, it's going to fill out that entire area, right? So what I want to do is start from a 60 by 40 and cut it down to a 40 by 40, right? Let's see. I should be able to... So in camera raw, it's not going to resize it properly. It's not. Let me try this. Let me try this. Because I'm thinking that if I use the 40 by 40, because if you look at you don't resize it, you uncheck that, it's really a 12 by 12 inch image as far as the raw file. So you want to resize it, or I want to resize it to 40 by 40. Yeah, that should work. I wish I would have thought of this the first time around, but I didn't. So yeah, resize it to the 40 by 40. That'll be fine. But you have to know what the correct size is after you've cropped it. Because if you crop something down really small and then you click resize to fit, like I said, camera raw is just going to expand it probably bigger than you want it to be. So you do have to be careful with that. You would basically start with a 60 by 40, and then you would crop it, right? And you would have to make sure that you know what's the exact dimensions of that crop when you do that. So that if you do resize to fit, you're gonna resize it to the proper dimensions. Because again, you don't want to stretch the image further than it's intended. So, okay with that one. What else is there? All right. Let me go ahead and open this one. There we go. All right, so this is the raw file. This is the Photoshop file. Now, for the water series, gosh, how do I want to do this? I'm going to have to go back to the raw file, decrease the size or take off the resize option, and just keep it at a 12 by 12. Open up the 12 by 12 in Photoshop, add the signature, save it like that. That's definitely an option. But yeah. Okay. So this is the Photoshop file. And you'll see the names of the files up here in the top left corner. So this is your Photoshop file. This is the raw, which is just copy-1. And I'm going to take the signature, drag it over, hold down shift so it drops in the same spot. There we go. I'm not blowing up this image as far as enlarging it. So technically I don't need to turn this layer into a smart object, but I can. And then I'll go ahead and close this one. All right, so now raw file. Yeah, you see how bright I want this signature to come down in opacity a little bit. That's 25%. That's low. That's 40. Now I'm trying to get a feel for how light I want this to be. It can't be too light. It can't be too dark. So I'm trying to find the sweet spot with this. It looks okay at 40%. This is 50. A little bit too hot. 45. Let me try that. Oh gosh. That's where it was. That's where it is. Because again, as I was saying before on the previous episode, is I want it to be seen, but I don't want people's attention to go to the signature first. So that's why I'm trying to take some of the emphasis off. Because a lot of times I'm scrolling through my photographs and that's where my eye just jumps to because it's so bright. All right, so that's 45. Let's go 50. Yeah, that's too bright. All right, so let's go backwards to 40%. that's 35. So if you ask me, like, Eric, what have you been doing all weekend? This is it. I've been going over the images that have signatures already and making sure that the signatures look the way they need to without taking too much attention away from the overall image. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, and I'm almost finished. There's quite a few, like everything else is going to be added, and none of them have signatures at all. So I'm going to have a better feel for, as far as the opacity adjustments that I want to use on the new stuff coming in. So I'm not going to have to go back over anything that's already was supposed to be done. But let me see how I want to do this. I would probably say between 35% and 30, one of those. I think I'm going to test out 30, but if it doesn't show up on the website, because that does happen at sometimes too, when I upload it to the website, it doesn't show up at all because the opacity is too light. So I've got to figure out where that line is that I need. All right, so let's see. JPEG, tag it as green. Now, this particular color tag is not for Adobe Bridge. This is going to be for Apple or the Mac. Like if you open up your Finder, they're going to have colors associated with them. So all these little dots right here, it's the same thing: purple, blue, yellow, green. So if I open it up in the Finder on Mac, the colors, the color labels that I'm using, they're all the same. They're the same as what I use in Adobe Bridge. So let's see. 8749. There we go. I'll change this to V2. Excuse me. And it's thinking about it. My dialog box was over there. Okay, so obviously quantity at 12, maximum large file, baseline standard. And then of course you're looking down here at this bar. And once that's cleared out, that should be okay. Now, my initial thought is this opacity is going to be too light. I don't think it's going to show, but I'm going to test it anyway. Yeah, because even when I've opened up this dialog box, I mean, that's the first place my eye went because this is so bright. Replace. Select. Usually I drag it when I'm not streaming on the stream, but I'm trying to show you guys what I'm doing. I just drag and drop it from the Finder folder. There we go. Yeah, this file is only, 26.5 megabytes. And it'll just overwrite what I already have on here. Wow, this looks good. I'm looking at it on my color calibrated monitor as well. It looks good. Let me drag this over there to make sure. Yep, that's actually pretty good. All right, and so for the website, number 10. Hold on, let me see. Because now I'm losing it a little bit. Yep, it's gone. It's not there. Yeah, that's the only issue. That on the actual website, I can barely see it. So I checked on my phone, I checked on the iPad, I checked on both my monitors. It's like it's fine in Photoshop. And on the background file, as far as the on the website, but on the actual public website, it disappears. Like I can barely see it. That is crazy. Yeah, I can barely see it. Now it's too dark. So that's the inconsistency that I've been fighting with. I don't know why there's such a distinct difference between the two. It's weird. But this is in the background, on the background, and it's perfect. But then when I actually go to the website and I look at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's not there. Yeah, so that's what I was saying before. I have to be really careful about how much I lower the opacity. So it was really bad on Saturday because I did like 10 images. And then before I started uploading them to the website. So then I uploaded the images, the 10 images. And then I went to I think I was on my phone, or did I go? I went to the website, and the signature just didn't look like it was there at all. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? So I came back into, the background site on the server, and I'm like, okay, it looks fine there. But then that's when I jumped on my phone, and I'm like, I don't see the signature at all on this photograph. Like, it's just not there. So that made me have to go back, adjust the opacity to all of the images, the 10 that I had finished, re-upload them to the site, come to the website, the actual live site, and make sure that the signature still showed up. So yeah, the same thing happened with this one. Like, even though it looks fine here, it looks fine in Photoshop. I don't know, it gets on the website, and I guess maybe there's a limitation with the color shade, the shades of color it can reproduce. I don't know, but it's just not the same. That is so weird. I don't know. Cause again, like I can really see it here. And then here it's like, whoa. Yeah, that's a huge difference. Let me check my phone. I'm gonna pull the website up on my phone and see what it looks like. Yeah, over the weekend I was very frustrated because I'm like, how does something so simple become so difficult to do this? Let me go to water, look at number 10. Oh my gosh, it's worse. Yeah, it's almost completely invisible. I can't see it at all. It's almost like at 5 to 10% opacity on my phone. That's not good at all. Okay. So we're gonna go to plan B or C. Which letter am I on right now? So that's 30%. Let's jump to, I think it was 45. Right, 45. And it looks too bright to me, but I think it's gonna be just right for the actual live site. I'm hoping 87, 49. There we go. Let's go with 3. Tag it with green. Let it go ahead and flatten the image. You know what? Wait a minute. Let me, because this is looking like a little bit like it's veering up on the edge. Bring it down a little bit to flatten this line. Let me see. Yeah, it was angled up. So I rotated it down a little bit. Not too much. That's better. Okay. Okay. So I go Command Shift S, brings up the Save As dialog box. Save as copy. There we go. You can press enter. That works as well. Cancel. I'm gonna change the to JPEG. There we go. Okay, now we're good. And this is 45 opacity. All right. Now, the server is like, even if you don't change the file name, the server is going to automatically change it for you when you overwrite what you had, the file you had in there before. But it depends on your web host. There we go. Come on. 3. The other thing you might be saying is, okay, Eric, what if you're switching out a print file in the middle of someone ordering it? It just goes back to the point I made on the last episode of I have the orders will go through. As far as I'll get an email that the order came in, but the order won't go directly to a lab just yet, to the photo lab just yet, until I approve it. So I'll get the email that the order has come in. If the file isn't the way I want it to look, I'll switch the file out, and then I'll approve it, and it goes to the lab after that. But in terms of all the options and everything, your print options, everything's already there. I just have to just put the final approval on it, that's all. All right, so it's much brighter. And then to come back to the live site. Okay, so that's what it looked like before. I can, oh my gosh, barely see it. And that's better. Let me check my phone. I just reloaded on my phone. Yeah, it's a little better. I'm probably going to kick it up another 20% and see how that works. See if that's too loud. And then I'll double check it on the iPad and see how that's coming out. Let me see something else. Yeah, for sure. All right. So that's where I'm going to stop for this one. Once I get an idea of where the percentage should be, I may or may not work on the rest of these. Actually, I'm going to go on my phone and look at what they look like, because what it might be is my secondary monitor is just bright. Yeah, that one did need to come down anyway. Number 10, that might be the only one that needed to be fixed. I think everything else, if I lower the opacity, is going to be, you're not going to be able to see it. And then I already tweaked the line thickness of my signature. I did that before. Yeah, especially with this one. So maybe this one, which is number 17, and number 10, I think are the only two that I need to tweak. See, especially 16, the texture in the background is so heavy that, yeah, I can't mess with that one. But yeah, the series, I was working on Dark Light, and it gave me all kinds of problems. So I can see the signature finally. It just took me a while to get the signature where I wanted it. So it's just over again. Trial and error. Working on the line thickness. But yeah, it's done. So I'm going to work on water number 10 a little bit more. Water number 17. And that's it for that one. I also finished landscapes. I finished that over the weekend as well. And what else is there? I cleaned up the graininess of In the Mist and finalized that one. What else is there? Same thing with Perilous Sky. And then I lowered the opacity a little bit on the signature, but that's it. Same thing with Finding Beauty in the Storm. Cleaned up the graininess for sure. And now the rest of these, the older prints, I'm still on the fence with Coastal Wave in terms of if I'm going to keep it or not. I don't know if I'm going to keep it because I found another photograph. I think it's a couple of photos after I captured this. I captured like a series of shots, right? There is one after this that is really similar to this, but I like the composition a lot better. I don't think I want to keep two photographs that are too similar. So this one might get swapped out for that one. But yeah, so now the rest of these, like the older photos, I have to add my signature to them. This one's from Las Vegas. I haven't worked on these yet in terms of adding my signature. So in short, it's not going to take me very long to do that because I figured out what what I'm looking for in terms of line thickness and opacity. So yeah. Sailaway's finished my signature there. I tweaked it, rotated it a little bit. Above water, I also finished that one. And Soft Wind. All of these are what, 2013, the older stuff. Yeah, these are done. And then To the Crown, that's 2012. I haven't gone back that far yet in terms of adding my signature to it. This is really from way back. This is 2009. And I gotta add, this one's actually titled Golden. And I have to add all the title, description, keywords. I have to add all that stuff. This one's 2008, but it's finished because it's one of my favorite ones. Yeah, this is my hometown, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I did not colorize this. I actually used a polarizer filter on the camera lens to get it to look like this. So, and I gotta add keywords to this. So that's what I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm just wrapping up where everything is in terms of making sure the signatures are right. I don't need to tweak anything else with the photos, the photos themselves. Just making sure everything is right. And then I will go into adding more new works. Like all the keywords are here for this one. So it's just going through all of them and making sure all the information is there like it's supposed to be as well. This is 2020. So, yeah. There's that. What else? Let me close this. The other thing is, where am I trying to get to? Yeah, I'm still going over statistics. Quite a few visits from Singapore. So what I'm doing now with the statistics is I'm looking at how many pages the visitor goes to. So instead of them just coming to the site and looking at one or two pages, I really want them to look at several pages of my work. So that's what I'm focused on now. Well, not now, but that'll be my next focus, is to tweak the homepage. I don't know, just to make it more attractive, I guess, with the images. Like this is case in point. This one is from Tokyo, Japan. This particular visitor, Tokyo, Japan, they went to 19 pages. And so it's just to get the visitor to stay, to look, you know what I mean? And then this visitor from Singapore, they selected some of the keywords. Actually, they've been coming back to the site, it looks like, the past couple of days. June 29th and the 30th, so over the weekend. So yeah, they go all the way back to last week. And I think visitors from Singapore, it seems like they've been doing keyword searches through the site. So that's why I'm being really meticulous about making sure all the keywords are correct, because you just click on, like, say they look for Las Vegas, right? So they clicked on Las Vegas and that brought them to whatever I have from Las Vegas. Some of the sky photographs, I took the skyscapes, they are in Las Vegas, but you can't tell where you are in terms of location. So I'm not going to tag them as that. Anything that's from Las Vegas, it's going to have some sort of recognizable landmark or something, that you can actually see the city. It'll be more like a cityscape, or like Solitude is you can actually see the terrain. But if it's just like the skyscape, because I took a lot of skyscape photographs in Las Vegas, but it can be a sky from anywhere. So I wanted to be really specific with that. Which ones are... Yeah, Flyaway is Las Vegas. But again, it's like you can't tell. Obviously. Sea of Colors, which is one of my favorites, oldies. You can't tell where you are. Like this doesn't scream Las Vegas. So there is no recognizable landmarks for it. So I'm not gonna add a Las Vegas keyword in there for it. And I do that for all the different locations where I have skyscapes. It's like if there's nothing recognizable there, yeah, it's not gonna have that keyword tag. Obviously, this one's gonna have California. So yeah, so I'm really going back into I'm going back to my statistics and looking at what visitors are doing when they show up. Yeah, this is Australia, more Singapore, Brisbane. Yeah, and then a bunch more Singapore. So since around the middle of last month, someone or a few people have been coming to the website looking through choices. And I'm continuing to add pricing and things like that. But like I say, once my signature is there, then I will go ahead and activate the shopping cart for those particular images. And what else is there? Yeah, so again, anything that has a final tag that is available for print, and when it doesn't have that final tab, then I know that, it's not available for sale yet. So, and again, you can use the add to selection if it's something that you want to save. As far as a photograph that you would consider purchasing. So what I'm doing right now is I am getting through most of these images these photos that already have signatures, getting through them as quickly as possible so that I can move on to the other photographs that need signatures and getting those done. And in the search engines, I mean, like Python, I've never heard of them before. But yeah, there are a lot of search engine visits from Bing. And then there's bots. They scan the website. And then as they continue to scan the website, the more information I put on the website, then the easier it is for me to be found in search engines. But Python is new. I've never heard of that before. Byte Spider, haven't heard of that one. Pinterest is here. So yeah, that's where I'm at. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up and probably jump on water number 17. Make sure that the opacity on that signature doesn't need any more tweaking. But yeah, I'm definitely ready to move on from this particular stage of the project, because I have a lot more images to to put together. So I think the only other thing I need to do with this, because I'm going to stick with the 45% for the opacity. Let's see. I'm going to make the small file for social media, change this to automatic, uncheck resample. The resolution is going to go from 300 to 72. Check resample again. And then the pixels, I'll take it down to 2100 is fine for me, which is very small, but it's definitely, big enough to be presented well online. And save as copy. JPEG. And yes, I would say that you really have to love what you're doing, because otherwise this is just very it can become very tedious and time consuming. So so yeah, you definitely have to love what you're doing, because it's just very time consuming. But once this part of it is done, I'm gonna turn the order processing part of this on. It'll be completely automatic, and I don't have to approve anything. Like, it's just gonna, all the orders are just gonna go to the photo lab directly without me having to do anything. So that'll be really good. All right. Okay. So yes, this is the one that you guys saw before, Coastal Wave. This is the one that I'm thinking about replacing it with. Very similar. But I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? Hold on, it's on the cloud, so I gotta grab it from here. No, that's not the right button. There's a way to switch to tab. There it is. That's what I was trying to do. So you gotta go Control Tab to switch back and forth between the two in Photoshop. they're not as similar as I thought. This is a lot darker. This is very bold because about half of it is just sand. And then you have the foam for the wave and then it blacks out. This one you see the slanted horizon. There's a lot less beach sand. You get this huge section in the middle for the wave. And you have waves here, and then it just goes to black. They're different styles. This is a more minimalistic approach. This is more open. It's more natural too. I'm not crazy about this area up here where the black line, it slants down and then it's gray. Like, but this part in here in the middle, absolutely love that. This in here I really love. Now the other one, this is the part that I don't love so much. This part in here, but it doesn't have that huge slant. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I want to extend this up to take that gray sky, that slant away, or crop it down. Or leave it as is. Because the other one like this, I left it slanted. The vertical shot. Yeah. I left the slant in there because I like it. But the sky is completely like that dark shade of gray. It's got a little bit of highlight in there. But yeah. It's more of a natural divide between the black and then this up here. So I might go back to the editing adjustments I made on here on coastal obscurity and see if I can bring it over here to this. Because I think if I maybe darken the sky up, not to match the water, but darken it up a little bit. But this part in here, like I said, the foam waves coming down, how the sand looks, I really like that. It's just this part up here, the top third, I have to figure out what I want to do with it. Like I said, I can either crop it out, I can extend the black upwards, I can leave it as is, I can darken the sky. There's several options. Then I've got 2 layers down here. Did I write 2 signatures? Yeah. And see, that signature I really didn't like. So I'm like, no. There we go. Yeah, so I have to work on that. Yeah, I might replace this with the other one. Because I just think, and then I got to see what it looks like on the wall and in the interior. I really do like this. And then if I take the signature, because you see how thick this is. Not really the opacity, but just the line thickness. I would go convert to smart object because I am going to expand this. What else is there? Let's go select. And then contract. Maybe 2. I think 2 might be too much. Let me see. And then I'll go backwards if I have to. Mask. Ooh. That's not bad. It might be too thin because I'm losing some of it, but I mean, that's not bad. All right, so let's back up a little bit. Go back to load selection. And let's try contract 1 pixel instead of 2. And then put the mask on there. I really didn't do as much as I was hoping. Okay. So in this case, I would definitely say get my buttons right here. Opacity 50 for 40. Ooh. 30. 35. That looks fancy. That looks fancy. Now, is a 35% going to work on the website the live site? I don't think so, but I can try because this is a pretty light background. The texture doesn't bother the signature too much. Yeah, that looks like it's going to work. But again, I would say, oh, I got a spot in here. Yeah, you see these little spots. Now, if you have spots on your work, again, do not touch the original photo, like the photograph file or photograph layer. Don't do anything on that layer. So what you would do is, let me go ahead and move this or delete this because I don't want that signature. But anyway, so you would select a photo and then you would add a new layer on top of that. So create new layer, and that's where you're going to do all of your healing tool or healing brush adjustments. But you see that dot, especially when you start printing this at larger sizes, that little dot is going to be really noticeable, right? So there's another dot here, there's another one here, and that's just specks on the camera lens or the camera sensor. So again, especially if you're planning on printing 60 inches, which is 5 feet wide, all this stuff is going to be more noticeable. So there's your healing brush. The shortcut key is J. So you just click J. Use your bracket keys to adjust the size of the brush. And you just want to do one click on it. So you kind of make that. And then you just click and it's gone. enlarge it to fit the dot on the inside of there, and make sure you're not touching any, because if you touch this part, it might pick up some of that black color. You don't want to do that. So you just click it, that's gone. You click this one, that's gone. Now, if you turn the layer off, the dots will come back. Right? Turn the layer on, the dots go away. So in order to do that, because on that layer that you just created is empty, there's nothing on it really. But you see the all samples layer checkbox up here. It'll say content aware. You make sure that's checked, and it'll click all sample all layers, right? So what that does, even though you're not on the photograph layer, it's still gonna sample the information from the photograph. So see, you have the dots there. So when you click on it with your healing tool, it's going to take the information from around it and blend it in with that. And again, you can turn it on and off as much as you want. So again, it's not changing the photograph itself. And also when you do that as well, you're going to have to right click that layer, convert it to a smart object, because when if you're going to expand the photograph in Photoshop, you're going to have to expand this blank layer along with the photograph. Otherwise, the photograph's going to expand to a larger size, but the corrections you made are not going to expand with it correctly. So make sure that everything is converted to a smart object before you come to your image size tool and say, okay, I want to take it from an 18 by 12 to like a 60 by 40. And again, you have to preserve details. I like to kick the noise reduction up to 100%. And there you go. You just click OK. But for now, this is going to save. Now, the other thing, and I keep trying to leave, but the other thing is, if you are working from the cloud, up in this little corner up here where your name is, where the name of the file name is, you will see a cloud icon on there. If you're working from your desktop, like your Mac Mini to your iPad, and you're keeping it on the cloud between the two of them, because I've done that sometimes, be really careful about the changes that you make, because everything that you do on the cloud is saved automatically. I mean, it just is, right? It's going to be saved automatically. So there is no, you can, like if you make a mistake on the file and you want it to revert back to an earlier or previous state, you have to go into Adobe and select a date, a time. It's like a restore, like you restore your computer. You have to select the date and the time to restore that particular photograph to, and it can be a little bit of a pain to go through all that. So, just make sure that when you're working directly from the cloud, make sure that you're not doing anything that, like, experimenting too much. If you're going to do a whole bunch of experimenting, I would say put the file on the cloud, right? Then you move the file from the cloud to your desktop or to your external hard drive. Do all the experimenting that you want to do, right? And then save it, put it back on the cloud at that whatever you saved it to, and then, like take it off the cloud, work on it, put it back on the cloud, right? So if you mess up the file off the cloud, there's no harm done, right? And you don't have to like re-save it or restore it to a previous version. So, but this is where I left it. Now all I have to do is close it. And when I close it, and I'll close this one too. This is going to be your save file. The file saved 5 seconds ago, even though I didn't manually save it, like go to save as or click the save button. You don't have to do that when it's on the cloud with Adobe. It's on autosave. So I will be able to go to my iPad. The file is going to be saved like this. It'll update. It's in sync. And yeah, it's in sync. So as long as you're in your Adobe account, all of your files are going to be in sync. And then sometimes it takes a little bit for it to update depending on how big the file is that you're working on. But it's been pretty good for me in terms of everything being in sync. Now, again, I don't keep files on here for a long time because you don't know if there's going to be a breach with the server, people hacking the server. You don't want a bunch of your work on the server, on the cloud. So when you're done, you would just delete the file, right? You would delete it. Once you move it to your desktop, your external, you can delete it off the cloud and it's going to go to your deleted folder. And then you would basically come in here and delete it permanently because it's going to save it. It's going to save it in the trash bin for 30 days before it auto deletes. So these are all the files I was working on before. I think I should be able to select everything, right? And here we go. Delete permanently up here. And there you go. So, again, they give me 20 gigabytes worth of storage included with this plan. And the plan is like $10 a month. Or like they say, $9.99 per month for the photography plan for Adobe. So that's all I need. I would like Illustrator as well, but I don't want to spend extra for that particular package. But yeah, these are all the things I've been working on, or I was working on over the weekend. The signatures are done. There's no more adjustments that I need to make for these. All of these have been saved to my external hard drive or on the desktop. So these are done. Okay. Oh, let me change this to yellow. Yellow tab. There we go. All right. So I think water number 10 is done. I'm going to jump on water 17, and I think the rest of them I'm going to leave them as is. So those will be finished. And then I think the last... What's the last collection I have to work on or fix as far as fixing the signatures? I think it's this one. Yeah, I'm wondering about this one. This one for sure. Lighter, probably smaller. I'm on the fence about that. This one I already fixed, but I don't know if I want to go lighter with the signature. That one, I settled on that one. This one, I'm not sure. I would probably rotate this down. But there's about 4 or 5 here that I would consider moving. This one's done already, fixed that signature. And these don't have signatures yet. So again, when I start working on these images, thank goodness I'm not going to have to go back over anything. They'll be finished the way that they need to be. And then I'll add the pricing icon, or add to cart icon up here. Keywords, all that. So I'm almost finished with editing the signatures that are already complete. And I definitely want to have this done by tomorrow, when I end my editing session tomorrow night. But this is where I am right now. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, 6. I think this one I might rotate a little bit, but I don't think I can do anything with that opacity. Yeah, so that shouldn't be that bad. All right, so I'm going to see where, like how far I can get. And if I can finish these tonight, that will be awesome as far as the ones that are just the signatures need to be tweaked. And then I can work on stuff like this one, which doesn't have a signature yet. Now, the price categories are already done. I finished that like a week and a half ago, something like that. So all I have to do is add it to the correct category for these that are not without signatures. And then they'll be available for purchase. So that is a relief. That's a relief. Because Thursday for sure, I'm going to be taking a break for Independence Day. And Wednesday night, I just want to look at these and make sure that I didn't miss anything in terms of just make sure I didn't miss anything with all the information and whatnot. And then Friday evening, I should be able to start on the stuff that doesn't have signatures yet. And then I'll start adding more photographs that are not here at all on the website. So that's where I am. All right. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you have any questions, any comments, I will be checking out all that stuff throughout the week. And so, yeah, because I kind of went over some things, especially with the editing side that you might have questions about. But comments, questions, feedback, I appreciate all of it. And thank you again for listening. And everyone take care.